When my daughter-in-law told me to leave the house I had built with my own 2 hands, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I just stood there in the doorway looking at my son's face, waiting for him to say something. Anything. But he didn't. He just looked down at his feet like a child caught doing something wrong. And in that moment I realized something that broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. My son, the boy I had raised alone after his mother passed away, the boy I had worked 3 jobs to put through college, the boy I had given everything to. He wasn't going to defend me. He wasn't going to stand up for me. He had already made his choice, and it wasn't me. I suppose I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there, the way she spoke to me, the way he stopped looking me in the eye, the way they whispered in their bedroom late at night when they thought I was asleep. But you know how it is when you love someone so much that you make excuses for them. You tell yourself it's just stress, it's just a bad day, it's just a phase. You convince yourself that things will get better, that the son you raised, the son you sacrificed everything for, would never really turn his back on you. But I was wrong. My name is Robert. I'm 72 years old, and this is the story of how I lost everything and then found myself again. This is the story of how my own family took my money, took my home, and took my dignity, and how I finally learned to take it all back. It started so slowly that I didn't even notice it at first. Little things, small changes, the way my son Michael stopped asking for my advice, the way his wife Vanessa started making decisions about my house without asking me, the way they started treating me less like the head of the Dottenser family and more like a guest who had overstayed his welcome. But let me back up a bit. Let me tell you how we got here. Because nothing in life happens all at once. It's always a series of small moments, small choices, small compromises that lead you down a path you never intended to walk. I met my wife, Catherine, when I was 23 years old. She was working at a small bakery downtown, and I used to stop by every morning before work to get coffee and a roll. I wasn't much back then, just a young man with calloused hands and big dreams. I worked construction during the day and took night classes at the community college. Money was tight. Life was hard. But when Catherine smiled at me from behind that counter, none of it seemed to matter. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony at her parents' church. We couldn't afford a honeymoon, so we spent our first weekend as husband and wife painting the walls of our tiny apartment. Catherine chose yellow for the kitchen. She said it made her feel like sunshine lived in our home. I would have painted the whole place purple if it made her happy. Michael came along 3 years after that. I'll never forget the day he was born. I held him in my arms and made him a promise. I promised him that I would give him a better life than I had, that he would never have to worry about money the way I did, that he would go to college, that he would have opportunities, that he would never have to work himself to the bone just to survive. And I kept that promise. God knows I kept it. Catherine and I worked hard. We saved every penny we could. I took extra shifts. She took in sewing work at night. We didn't go out to fancy restaurants. We didn't take vacations. We didn't buy new cars or expensive clothes. Everything we had, everything we earned went into 2 things, our home and our son's future. We bought our house when Michael was 5 years old. It wasn't much at first. A small 2-bedroom place on the edge of town with a yard that was more weeds than grass. But it was ours. I remember the day we got the keys, Catherine cried. She stood in the empty living room and cried tears of joy. We had done it. We had made it. We had our own home. Over the years, I improved that house with my own hands. I added a second bathroom. I finished the basement. I built a deck in the backyard where we would sit on summer evenings and watch Michael play. I planted trees. I fixed the roof. I painted and repaired and renovated. Every nail I hammered into that house was hammered with love. Every board I laid was laid with pride. That house wasn't just a building. It was the physical representation of everything Catherine and I had worked for. Michael was a good kid. He really was. He got good grades in school. He played baseball. He helped around the house without being asked. He was polite to adults. He made us proud. When other parents complained about their teenagers, Catherine and I would look at each other and smile. We had raised him right. Then Catherine got sick. Michael was 16. It started with headaches. Catherine would come home from work and go straight to bed. She said it was just stress, just tired, just getting older, but I knew something was wrong. I begged her to see a doctor. She kept putting it off. She didn't want to waste money on doctor visits when it was probably nothing. By the time she finally went, it was too late, cancer stage 4. The doctor said if she had come in 6 months earlier, they might have been able to do something. But now all they could do was make her comfortable. She died 4 months later. I still remember her last words to me. We were in the hospital. Michael had gone down to the cafeteria to get something to eat. She took my hand and looked at me with those beautiful green dots. eyes that I had fallen in love with so many years ago. She said, "Robert, promise me you'll take care of our boy. Promise me you'll make sure he's okay." I promised her, just like I had promised Michael when he was born. I promised I would take care of him, and I did. God help me, I did everything I could. After Catherine died, it was just the two of us. Michael was devastated. He stopped playing baseball, his grades dropped, he stopped talking to his friends. He would come home from school and go straight to his room. Some nights I would stand outside his door and hear him crying. It broke my heart, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help him. I was drowning in my own grief and trying to keep us both afloat. I worked harder. I took on extra projects. I needed to keep busy. I needed to keep my mind occupied, and I needed the money. Catherine's medical bills had wiped out most of our savings. I had taken out a second mortgage on the house to pay for treatments that didn't work. I was in debt, but I didn't care. I would work until I died if that's what it took to keep my promise to Catherine. I would make sure Michael was okay. Slowly, over the next 2 years, Michael came back to life. He started smiling again. He started hanging out with friends. Started smiling again. He started hanging out with friends. His grades improved. He got accepted to a good university 3 hours away. I was so proud, so incredibly proud. My son was going to college. He was going to have the opportunities I never had. He was going to make something of himself. I paid for everything: tuition, room and board, books, spending money. I sold my truck and bought a cheaper one. I stopped eating out completely. I worked weekends. I worked holidays. I didn't care how tired I was or how much my back hurt. I was keeping my promise. Michael did well in college. He studied business. He joined clubs. He made the dean's list. Every time he came home for a visit, he seemed more confident, more mature, more ready to take on the world. I was so happy, so relieved he was going to be okay. Catherine would have been so proud. Then in his senior year, he brought Vanessa home. I'll never forget meeting her for the first time. It was Thanksgiving break. Michael had called a few days before and said he was bringing someone special home. He sounded excited, happy. I was thrilled. My son had found someone. She was beautiful. I'll give her that. Tall and elegant with long, dark hair and a smile that could light up a room. She came from money. You could tell just by looking at her, the way she dressed, the way she carried herself, the way she looked around our modest home like she was touring a museum. "So this is where Michael grew up," she said, walking through our living room. "Mm-hmm." She said it with a smile, but there was something in her voice, something I couldn't quite place. It wasn't mean, it wasn't rude, it was just something. "This is it," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Not fancy, but it's home. It's very cozy," she said. Michael beamed at her like she had just given me the greatest compliment in the world. We had dinner that night. I had cooked a turkey and all the fixings. I'm not a great cook, but I tried. Catherine had always done the cooking. I was still learning. Vanessa picked at her food. She complimented everything politely, but I noticed she barely ate anything. My mother usually has our Thanksgiving catered," she said at one point. "It's just easier that way, you know?" I didn't know. I had never had anything catered in my life, but I nodded and smiled. Over the next few months, Michael talked about Vanessa constantly. She was smart. She was ambitious. She was going to law school. Her father owned a successful business. Her family had a vacation home. They traveled to Europe every summer. I was happy for him. Really, I was. But I also felt a small knot of worry in my stomach. Michael was marrying into a world I didn't understand. A world where people had caterers and vacation homes and went to Europe. What place would there be for a simple construction worker like me in that world? They got engaged 6 months after graduation. Michael called me with the news. He was so excited he could barely get the words out. He said Vanessa's parents were going to help pay for the wedding. It was going to be at a country club. There would be 200 guests. He wanted me to walk him down the aisle since his mother wasn't there to do it. Of course, I said yes. I would have done anything for my son. The wedding cost more than I made in 2 years. Vanessa's parents paid for most of it, but there were still expenses. The rehearsal dinner, Michael's tuxedo, gifts for the groomsmen. I put it all on my credit card. I was already drowning in debt. What was a little more? The wedding was beautiful. I won't lie about that. The country club was stunning, and the flowers were perfect. The food was incredible. Vanessa looked like a princess. Michael looked so handsome in his tuxedo, though grown up, so ready to start his new life. I sat at a table with some of Catherine's old friends and watched my son dance with his new wife. I should have been happy. I should have been celebrating. But all I could think about was how much I missed Catherine, how much I wished she could have been there to see this, how alone I felt in that crowded room full of people I didn't know. After the wedding, Michael and Vanessa moved into an apartment downtown. It was expensive. Too expensive for a young couple just starting out, but Vanessa's father helped with the rent. Michael got a job at a marketing firm. Vanessa started law school. They seemed happy. I didn't see them much after that. They were busy. I understood they were building their life together. They didn't need an old man hanging around, but I missed my son. The first time they asked me for money, Michael called on a Tuesday evening. I was sitting in my living room eating dinner in front of the television. Just me and a frozen meal. That had become my routine. Work all day, come home to an empty house, heat up something from the freezer, and watch whatever was on TV until I fell asleep in my chair. "Hey, Dad," Michael said when I answered. He sounded cheerful. "How are you doing?" "I'm good, son. Real good." "How are you and Vanessa?" "We're great, really great." "Listen, Dad, I wanted to ask you something." My heart lifted a little. Maybe he was calling to invite me over for dinner. Maybe he wanted to come visit. Maybe he just wanted to talk. "Vanessa's car broke down," he said. "The transmission is shot. The mechanic says it's going to cost $3,000 to fix, or we need to get a new car. We're a little short right now with her law school tuition and everything. I was wondering if you could help us out, just a loan. We'll pay you back. $3,000. I didn't have $3,000. I was barely making my mortgage payments. I was still paying off the credit card bills from the wedding. I was still paying off Catherine's medical bills. But this was my son. My son needed help. Of course, I heard myself say, of course I'll help. Really? Dad, that's amazing. Thank you so much. We'll pay you back as soon as we can. I promise. I took out another loan, a personal loan from the bank at a terrible interest rate. I gave Michael the money. He was so grateful. He hugged me and said I was the best father in the world. Vanessa smiled and thanked me politely. They took the money and left. I never saw that money again. 3 months later, Michael called again. They needed help with rent. Vanessa's father had some unexpected business expenses and couldn't help them that month. Could I loan them $2,000 just until next month? They would definitely pay me back. I said yes. 6 months after that, they needed money for a security deposit on a new apartment, a nicer place. Closer to Vanessa's law school, $4,000. I took out another loan. Then it was furniture for the new apartment. Then it was Vanessa's bar exam fees. Then it was a new computer for Michael's work. Then it was car insurance. Then it was emergency dental work. Then it was a trip to visit Vanessa's family for the holidays. Every few months, there was something, and every time I said yes, I couldn't say no. This was my son. I had promised Catherine I would take care of him. I had promised him I would give him a better life. If he needed money, I would find a way to get it for him. I stopped going out completely. I stopped buying new clothes. I ate the cheapest food I could find. I turned the heat down in the winter and sweated through the summers without air conditioning. I cut every corner I could cut. Every penny I saved went to Michael. I was 68 years old and I had nothing, less than nothing. I was drowning in debt. But I told myself it was okay. It was worth it. Michael was doing well. He had a good job, a beautiful wife, a nice apartment. He was happy. That's all that mattered. Then Vanessa graduated from law school and got a job at a prestigious firm. I thought maybe things would get better. Maybe now they wouldn't need my money anymore. Maybe now they could start paying me back. Instead, Michael called with a different request. "Dad, Vanessa and I have been talking," he said. "We want to buy a house. Start building equity instead of throwing money away on rent, but the down payment is steep. And with Vanessa's student loans, we're not going to be able to save up for years." I knew where this was going. My stomach tightened. "We were wondering," he continued, "if maybe we could move in with you for a while, just temporarily. A year, maybe 2. We could save up for a down payment while we're living with you. And you wouldn't have to be alone in that big house anymore. We could help you out. Fix things up. It would be good for all of us. Move in with me into my house." The house Catherine and I had built together, the house I had spent decades improving with my own hands. I should have said no. I should have told him that I needed my space, that I was happy living alone, that they were adults and needed to figure things out on their own. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I thought about how lonely I had been, how quiet the house was, how empty it felt without Catherine, how much I missed having family around, how nice it would be to see Michael every day, to have dinner together, to feel like a family again. "Of course you can move in," I said. "Stay as long as you need." Michael sounded relieved, grateful. He said it would only be temporary. They would save up quickly, they would be out of my hair before I knew it. And in the meantime, we could spend time together. It would be like old times. I believed him. They moved in 3 weeks later. I gave them the master bedroom, the bedroom where Catherine and I had slept for 30 years. I moved into Michael's old room, it seemed right. They were a couple, they needed space, I didn't need much. Vanessa brought a lot of stuff, boxes and boxes of clothes and shoes and decorations. She immediately started rearranging things. She moved my furniture around. She took down Catherine's pictures from the walls and replaced them with modern art. She changed the curtains in the living room. She bought new dishes and put my old ones in the basement. "I hope you don't mind," she said with that smile of hers. I just thought the place could use a little updating, make it feel more fresh and modern. I did mind. I minded very much, but I didn't say anything. This was temporary. She was just trying to make the place feel like home. It wasn't worth causing conflict over. Michael seemed happy. He would come home from work and kiss Vanessa, and they would cook dinner together in my kitchen. Well, in what used to be my kitchen, now it felt like theirs. They had taken it over completely. New pots, new pans, new organization system. When I tried to cook something for myself, I couldn't find anything. Everything had been moved. Just ask if you need something, Robert, Vanessa would say. She had stopped calling me Dad or Mr. Patterson. Now it was just Robert. Like I was a roommate instead of Michael's father. The first few months weren't too bad. We ate dinner together most nights. We watched TV together. Michael and I would talk about work and sports. Vanessa was usually on her phone, but she was polite. She smiled. She said the right things. But slowly things started to change. Vanessa started making comments, little things about the house, about the neighborhood, about my habits. Robert, do you think you could eat your breakfast a little earlier? Michael and I like to have our quiet time in the morning before work. Robert, could you not watch TV so loud? I'm trying to study for a case. Robert, would you mind parking on the street instead of in the driveway? It's easier for Michael to get out in the morning. Every request was polite. Every request was reasonable. But there were so many of them, I felt like I was constantly adjusting my life to accommodate them in my own house. Then the money request started again. Dad, our savings account is growing, but not as fast as we'd hoped, Michael said one evening. The thing is, we're paying your rent, and that's eating into what we can save for a down payment. I stared at him. You're not paying me rent. Well, no, not officially. But we're contributing to groceries and utilities and everything. It adds up. We were thinking since we're family, maybe we could just focus on saving for our house instead. We'll still help around here, of course. But the money would go further if we could put it all toward our down payment. We'll be out of here faster that way. It made sense the way he explained it. And I wanted them to save up. I wanted them to get their own place. Not because I didn't want them there, but because I wanted them to have their own life, their own home. Like Catherine and I had. Okay, I said, don't worry about contributing. Just save your money. Vanessa smiled at me from the couch. Thank you, Robert. That's very generous, but they didn't just stop contributing. They started asking for more. Dad, my car needs new tires. Could you cover that? Dad, Vanessa needs a new work wardrobe. Could you help out? Dad, we need to pay for a professional development course. Could you loan us the money? The money? I said yes every time. I took out more loans. I put more on my credit cards. I was working full-time at 69 years old just to keep up with the payments. My back hurt constantly. My knees were shot, but I kept working. I kept saying yes, and then they stopped asking. They just started taking. I noticed charges on my credit card that I didn't make. When I asked Michael about it, he looked surprised. Oh, sorry, Dad. I thought you knew. You gave me your credit card for emergencies, remember? I needed to buy some things. I'll pay you back. I didn't remember giving him my credit card, but maybe I had. I was getting older. Maybe I was forgetting things. The charges and answering dinners at expensive restaurants, reparips thousands of dollars. The charges kept appearing. Dinners at expensive restaurants, clothes, electronics, weekend trips, thousands of dollars. Michael, we need to talk about the credit card charges, I said one evening. He looked annoyed. Dad, we're saving for a house. We need to live our lives too. We can't just sit at home every night. We're young. We need to enjoy ourselves. But these charges will pay you back, okay? God, you're always worried about money. We're family. This is what family does. They help each other out. I felt ashamed. He was right. Family helps each other. I was being selfish, being stingy. They were working hard. They deserved to enjoy themselves. But the debt kept growing. I was now working overtime every week just to make minimum payments on my credit cards. I had nothing left. No savings, no retirement, nothing. And then one day, I came home from work and found Vanessa in the kitchen with a real estate agent. Robert, perfect timing, Vanessa said when I walked in. She was sitting at my kitchen table with a woman in a business suit. Papers were spread out in front of them. This is Jennifer. She's a real estate agent. We were just going over some options. I set my lunchbox down on the counter. My back was killing me. I had spent the day carrying heavy materials up 3 flights of stairs. All I wanted was to sit down, eat something, and rest. Options for what? I asked. For the house, Vanessa said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. We've been here almost 2 years now, and honestly, we're not saving as fast as we'd hoped. Jennifer suggested that instead of us buying our own place, we could just buy this house from you. The room seemed to tilt. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. Buy this house? Yes, Vanessa continued. She was smiling, excited. It makes perfect sense. You're getting older. This house is too much for you to maintain. All these repairs and upkeep, it's a lot of work. And you're still working full-time at your age, which honestly, Robert, isn't healthy. You should be retired, relaxing, enjoying your golden years. Jennifer, the real estate agent, nodded sympathetically. It's very common for older homeowners to downsize. It can actually be quite liberating. We could buy the house from you, Vanessa went on. Give you enough money to pay off your debts and maybe get a nice little apartment somewhere smaller, easier to manage, and you wouldn't have to worry about maintenance or property taxes or any of that. You could finally retire. I looked at the papers on the table. I could see numbers, figures. They had already been discussing this, planning this without me. Where's Michael? I asked quietly. He's at work, but we've talked about it. He thinks it's a great idea. He didn't want to bring it up because he knows you're sentimental about the house. But really, Robert, it's the practical thing to do. I stood there in my kitchen, the kitchen where Catherine had cooked thousands of meals, the kitchen where we had celebrated Michael's birthdays, the kitchen where I had held her the night before she went into the hospital for the last time. This house wasn't just a building, it was my life, it was Catherine's memory, it was everything. I need to think about it, I managed to say. Vanessa's smile tightened just a little. Of course. Take your time. But don't take too long. The market is good right now. Jennifer says these opportunities don't last forever. I went to my room, Michael's old room, the small room that had become my prison. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. My hands were shaking. That night when Michael came home, I tried to talk to him about it. He was in the living room watching TV, our TV, the one I had bought in the house I had built. Michael, can we talk? Sure, Dad, that's sure mekaniken samperaf free masher. Sure, Dad, what's up? He didn't look away from the screen. Sure told me to dursamin to debertine for sitsamen. Vanessa told me about the idea, about buying the house. Oh yeah, that. He finally looked at me. I know it's a big change, but it really does make sense. You're working yourself into the ground, Dad. You should be retired. You've worked hard enough. This house is all I have, Michael. It's where your mother and I built our life, where we raised you, he sighed. I know, Dad. I get that it's sentimental, but Mom's gone, and you're not getting any younger. What happens if you get sick or hurt? You can't maintain this place forever. At least if we own it, you know it's staying in the family. Isn't that what matters? Staying in the family, I repeated. It's already in the family. It's my house. His face hardened a little. Dad, let's be honest. You're in debt up to your eyeballs. You're one medical emergency away from losing this place anyway. At least this way you'd get something out of it. Enough to clear your debts and have a little left over. Otherwise, what? You're going to work until you drop dead? The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Was that how my son saw me? As a burden? As someone who was going to work until he dropped dead? I gave you everything, I said quietly. Everything I had. I'm in debt because I helped you, because I kept saying yes every time you needed money. And I'm grateful for that, Dad. I really am, but that was your choice. I didn't force you to do anything. You wanted to help, and now we're trying to help you. This is a good solution for everyone. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I realized I didn't recognize him anymore. This wasn't the boy I had raised. This wasn't the kind, thoughtful young man who used to help me in the yard and ask about my day. This was someone else, someone Vanessa had molded into something different. Or maybe this was who he had always been, and I had just been too blind to see it. I need to think about it, I said again. Fine, think about it, but Dad, don't take forever. We're trying to move forward with our lives. Over the next few weeks, the pressure increased. Vanessa would leave real estate listings on the kitchen counter, articles about the benefits of downsizing for seniors, pamphlets for retirement communities. She never said anything directly. She just left them there for me to find. Michael stopped talking to me as much. He was distant, cold. When I tried to have a conversation, he would give one-word answers and then leave the room. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Then one night I overheard them talking in their bedroom. I wasn't trying to listen. I was just walking past on my way to the bathroom. But I heard my name and I stopped. He's being ridiculous, Vanessa said. It's been 3 weeks. How long does he need to think about it? I know. I've been putting pressure on him. He'll come around. That was Michael's voice. He better. We've wasted enough time here. I'm tired of living in this dated little house, in this boring neighborhood. I want our own place. I want to move on with our lives. We will. Just give him a little more time. We've given him 2 years, Michael. 2 years of free rent. 2 years of putting up with him shuffling around here like a sad old man. I've been patient. But I'm done being patient. There was silence for a moment. Then Michael spoke again, quieter this time. What do you want me to do? Tell him he needs to sell. Stop asking. Tell him. And if he won't agree to sell it to us, then we need to move out and let him figure it out on his own. I'm not wasting any more of my life here. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. I stood frozen in the hallway, barely breathing. Okay, Michael said. Okay, I'll talk to him tomorrow. I'll tell him he needs to decide. I went back to my room without using the bathroom. I sat on my bed in the dark and tried to process what I had just heard. Vanessa thought I was a burden, a sad old man, and Michael had agreed with her.
Yeah.
He was going to give me an ultimatum. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about my life, about Catherine, about all the sacrifices I had made, about all the promises I had kept, and about how none of it seemed to matter anymore. The next evening, Michael knocked on my door. I knew what was coming. Dad, we need to talk. Okay. He sat down on the edge of my bed. He wouldn't look at me directly. His eyes kept darting around the room, landing on everything except my face. Vanessa and I have been really patient, he started. We've given you time to think about the house situation, but we need an answer. We need to know if you're going to sell the house to us or not. And if I say no, he finally looked at me. His face was hard, determined. Then we're going to move out. We're going to get our own place. And Dad, if we move out, we won't be able to help you anymore. No more money. No more loans. You'll be on your own. And honestly, I don't know how you're going to make it. You're 70 years old. You're in massive debt. If you lose this house to the bank, you'll have nothing. I'll have nothing if I sell it to you either, I said quietly. That's not true. We'll give you enough to pay off your debts and get an apartment. You'll be clear, free. Isn't that worth something? This house is worth something. It's worth everything. Your mother and I. Mom's dead, Dad. His voice was sharp, angry. She's been dead for years. You need to let go. You need to move on. Stop living in the past. The room went silent. Those words hung in the air between us like poison. Stop living in the past. Let go of Catherine. Let go of everything we had built together, I said softly. Dad, get out of my room. He stood up. You have 1 week to decide. After that, we're moving out, with or without the house. He left the door closed behind him with a soft click. I sat there in the dark and felt something inside me break, not my heart. That had been broken for a long time. Something else, something deeper. The part of me that had been holding on, the part that had been making excuses, and the part that had been sacrificing and giving and loving unconditionally, that part of me finally shattered. And in its place, something new emerged, something cold and clear and certain. I had been a fool. I had given everything to a son who saw me as nothing more than a bank account and a house to inherit. I had worked myself into debt and exhaustion for someone who couldn't even defend me against his wife's cruelty. I had kept promises to a ghost while letting the living walk all over me. It was time to stop. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. I hadn't slept much, but I felt different, clearer, like a fog had lifted from my mind. I got dressed, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with a notepad and pen. I started making a list of everything I needed to do. First, I called in sick to work. I never called in sick. In 45 years of working, I had maybe taken 5 sick days total, but today I needed the time. I had things to take care of. I drove to the bank as soon as it opened. I sat down with the manager, a kind woman named Patricia, who I had known for years. I told her everything. The debt, the loans, the credit cards, the situation with my son. She listened without judgment, taking notes. Robert, I'm going to be honest with you, she said when I finished. You're in a very difficult position. But you do have options. The house has equity, quite a bit of equity actually. You've owned it for a long time, and property values in this area have gone up significantly. What are my options? She pulled up some information on her computer. You could sell the house, pay off all your debts. With what's left, you could buy a smaller place outright or rent comfortably for years. You'd be debt-free. You could actually retire. And my son wants to buy the house from me. Patricia paused. She chose her words carefully. That's one option. But Robert, if you're going to sell, you should get fair market value. This house would sell for considerably more than what I imagine your son is offering. I hadn't even thought about that. I pulled out the papers that Vanessa had left on my table, the offer they had Jennifer prepare. Patricia looked at it and her eyebrows went up. This is about 70% of what your house is actually worth, she said quietly. Maybe less. 70%. They weren't trying to help me. They were trying to get my house at a discount. My son and his wife were trying to take advantage of me. Again, something hardened in my chest. I want to sell the house, I said, but not to them. I want to list it at market value. I want to sell it to someone else. Patricia nodded. I can connect you with a good real estate agent, someone who will look out for your interests. And Robert, you might want to consider talking to a lawyer too, about your finances, about any verbal agreements you might have made with your son. I left the bank with a plan. A real plan, not a plan to make everyone else happy, a plan to save myself. I called a real estate agent that Patricia recommended. Her name was Susan. She came to the house that afternoon while Michael and Vanessa were at work. She walked through every room, took notes, took pictures. She was impressed. You've maintained this beautifully, she said. The updates you've done are quality work. This is going to sell quickly and for a good price. When do you want to list it? When as Steffer there a sure after ever raid? As soon as possible. I can have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. We'll do some staging, professional photos, and list it by the end of the week. So in this market, I'd expect offers within 2 weeks. Perfect. After Susan left, I sat in my living room and looked around. Catherine's ghost was everywhere. The paint color she had chosen, the spot where her favorite chair used to sit, the window where she would stand and watch Michael play in the yard. This house was full of memories. Beautiful memories, but they were just memories. Catherine was gone, and holding on to this house wasn't honoring her memory. It was killing me. She wouldn't have wanted that. She would have wanted me to be happy, to be free, to live whatever time I had left without drowning in debt and heartache. I heard the front door open. Michael and Vanessa were home from work. I'd stayed in my chair, calm, ready. They came into the living room. Vanessa saw me sitting there and smiled, that tight smile of hers. Robert, have you thought about what Michael said about the house? I have, and I'm selling the house. But not to you. The smile disappeared. Excuse me, I'm listing the house for sale at market value. I've already hired a real estate agent. The listing goes live this week. Michael's face went pale. Dad, what are you talking about? We had an agreement. We had no agreement. You gave me an ultimatum. Sell to you at a price that's 30% below market value, or you move out? Well, I'm making a different choice. I'm selling to someone who will pay what this house is actually worth. And with that money, I'm going to pay off my debts and start over. You can't do that, Vanessa said. Her voice was sharp now. We've been living here for 2 years on the understanding that we would buy this house. No? You've been living here for 2 years rent-free while I went further into debt supporting you? While I worked overtime at 70 years old to pay for your dinners and your trips and your clothes? While you took over my home and treated me like a guest, like a burden? I heard you, Vanessa. I heard what you said about me, the sad old man shuffling around. Her face flushed red. She looked at Michael, but he was staring at the floor. Dad, come on, Michael said weakly. She didn't mean yes, she did, and you agreed with her. You've been pressuring me, manipulating me, taking my money and my home and my dignity. Well, it stops now. The house is being sold. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. 30 days? Vanessa's voice rose. You can't just kick us out with 30 days notice. Actually, I can. I checked with a lawyer this morning. You're not tenants. You have no lease. You're guests who have overstayed their welcome. 30 days is more than generous. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. I gave you everything, Michael. Everything I had. I worked 3 jobs to put you through college. I went into debt to pay for your wedding, your cars, your life. I welcomed you into my home when you needed a place to stay. And you repaid me by trying to steal my house and treating me like garbage in the process. We weren't stealing, Michael started. Yes, you were. You were offering me 70% of what this house is worth. You were taking advantage of me. Your own father, the man who sacrificed everything for you. Your mother would be ashamed of you. Michael's head snapped up. His eyes were wet. Don't bring Mom into this. Why not? I made promises to her. I promised I would take care of you, and I did. I took care of you too much. I enabled you. I let you become someone who thinks it's okay to use people, even your own father. Well, I'm done. I'm done sacrificing. I'm done enabling. I'm done being your bank account. Vanessa grabbed her purse. Come on, Michael. We don't have to listen to this, but Michael didn't move. He just stood there, tears running down his face. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't mean for things to get like this. Maybe you didn't, but they did, and you let them. You chose her over me, again and again. You stood by while she took over my home and spoke about me like I was nothing. You asked me for money you never intended to pay back. You tried to pressure me into selling you my house at a fraction of its value. Voices, Michael. Your choices. We can fix this, he said desperately. We can make it right. Just don't sell the house. Please, give us another chance. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised, the man he had become, and I felt something I never thought I would feel toward him, pitting and some no. I said simply, freedom? It's too late for that. The house is being sold. You need to leave. Vanessa grabbed Michael's arm. Let's go now. We'll stay at a hotel tonight. I'm not spending another minute in this house. Michael let her pull him toward the door, but he stopped and turned back to me. Dad, I really am sorry for everything. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix what's broken. You need to leave now. Both of you. They left. I heard their bedroom door open and close. Heard them packing. Heard Vanessa's angry voice and Michael's quieter responses. An hour later, I heard the front door close. Then their car started. Then silence. I was alone in my house. Really alone, for the first time in 2 years, and I felt lighter than I had in decades. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Susan listed the house, and just as she predicted, the offers started coming in within days. Good offers. Great offers. I accepted one that was $15,000 over asking price, a young family with 2 small children. The father reminded me a little bit of myself at that age. Eager, hopeful, ready to build a life. I signed the papers, I paid off every single debt, the medical bills, the credit cards, the loans, all of it. Gone. Cleared. For the first time since Catherine got sick, I owed nothing to anyone. With what was left, I bought myself a small condo on the other side of town, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a little balcony with a view of the park. It was perfect, just enough space for me, easy to maintain. No yard work, no repairs, just simple. I retired. After 45 years of breaking my back in construction, I retired. I started collecting Social Security. Between that and the money I had left from the house sale, I was comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. I could pay my bills, buy groceries, even go out to dinner once in a while if I wanted to. I started living again. I joined a senior center and took up woodworking. I made small things, birdhouses, picture frames, little shelves. It reminded me of the work I used to do on the house, but without the pressure, without the burden. It was just enjoyable. I made friends, real friends. People my own age who understood what it was like to be in this stage of life. We played cards. We went to movies, we had coffee, and complained about our aching joints and laughed about getting old. Michael tried to call me a few times in the first month. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. He left voicemails. You mad? Yes. Apologizing, saying he understood why I was angry, saying he wanted to make things right. I deleted them without listening all the way through. Vanessa never called. I didn't expect her to. 3 months after I moved into my condo, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there stood Michael, alone. He looked terrible, tired, thinner, older somehow. Hi, Dad. Michael. Can I come in? I should have said no. I should have closed the door. But some old instinct, some old habit of always saying yes to my son made me step aside. He came in and looked around my little condo. This is nice, really nice. It suits me. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then he spoke. Vanessa and I separated. We're getting divorced. I wasn't surprised. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. And that's okay. You were right about her, about everything. I couldn't see it, or I didn't want to see it. She was so confident, so sure of herself. And I thought if I just did what she wanted, if I became what she wanted, I'd be successful, happy. But I wasn't. I was miserable, and I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone I didn't like. He sat down on my couch without being invited. Old habits. After you kicked us out, things fell apart fast. We couldn't afford a nice place on our own. We had to get a small apartment. She was furious. She blamed me, said I had ruined everything by not convincing you to sell us the house. She said you were selfish, that you had failed me as a father, and for the first time I defended you. I told her you weren't selfish. I had used you, taken advantage of you, and I was ashamed. His voice cracked. I was so ashamed, Dad, of what I had become, of how I had treated you. You gave me everything, and I threw it back in your face. I let her turn me into someone who would steal from his own father. Someone who would pressure and manipulate and take and take and take without ever giving back. Mom would have been ashamed of me. I know she would have. Tears were streaming down his face now. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not sorry that things didn't work out the way I wanted. Sorry for hurting you, for using you, for betraying everything you taught me. I sat down in my chair across from him. I looked at my son. Really looked at him, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Remorse. Real, genuine remorse. Not the fake apologies he had given before when he wanted something. This was different. This was real. Michael, I said quietly, I forgive you. He looked up at me, shocked. What? I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. You hurt me deeply. You betrayed my trust. You took advantage of my love for you, but you're my son. And despite everything, I still love you. I probably always will. That's what parents do. We love our children even when they break our hearts. He was sobbing now, full heaving sobs. I don't deserve your forgiveness, probably not. But forgiveness isn't about what people deserve. It's about letting go. I spent too many years holding on to things, holding on to Catherine's memory so tight that I couldn't move forward, holding on to debt and sacrifice and martyrdom because I thought that's what love looked like. But real love isn't about sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. Real love requires boundaries and respect and balance. I stood up and got 2 glasses of water from the kitchen. I handed one to Michael and sat back down. He drank it slowly, trying to compose himself. I'm rebuilding my life, I continued. And part of that means being honest about what I can and can't do. I can forgive you, but I can't go back to the way things were. I can't be your safety net anymore. I can't say yes every time you need something. I need to take care of myself now. For the first time in my life, I need to put myself first." Michael nodded. "I understand. And I don't want you to be my safety net anymore either. I need to figure things out on my own. I got a second job. I'm paying off my debts. I'm living in a studio apartment that's about the size of this room, but it's mine. I'm paying for it with money I earned, and it feels good, hard but good. I'm proud of you for that. I'm going to therapy too," he said, "trying to figure out perfection, 100 therapying the Schreibstance today, trying to figure out why I let myself become that person, why I was so easily influenced, why I thought success meant money and status instead of, I don't know, being a good person, being someone my parents could be proud of." We sat in silence for a while. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was just quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm when everything has not been said, and all that's left is to see what survived. "Can I ask you something, Dad?" "Sure. Do you think we can have a relationship again? Not like before, something different, something healthier. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'd like to try. If you're willing." I thought about it, really thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no. To protect myself, to keep the distance that had been so liberating, but another part of me, the part that was still his father, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that people could change, that my son could become someone better, someone worthy of the sacrifices I had made. "Maybe," I said finally, "but it has to be different. No more money, no more loans, no more taking advantage. If you need help, I'll listen, I'll give advice. But I won't enable you, and if I feel like you're slipping back into old patterns, I'll walk away. For good this time, I understand, and I accept those terms. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for giving me another chance." Dapter Persian signed Tisa Nadabrundersafganeveri. He stood up to leave at the door. He turned back. "I really am sorry about all of it, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the kind of man you deserved as a son, the kind of man Mom would have been proud of." After he left, I sat on my balcony and watched the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink and purple. It was beautiful. I realized I hadn't watched a sunset in years. I had been too busy working, too busy worrying, too busy sacrificing. But now I had time to watch sunsets, time to make birdhouses, time to have coffee with friends, time to just be. Over the next few months, Michael and I started rebuilding our relationship slowly. He would call once a week just to check in, not to ask for anything, just to talk. We'd discuss his job, his therapy, his progress. Sometimes we'd meet for coffee, nothing fancy, just coffee and conversation. He told me about the divorce, how Vanessa had been furious when she realized I had really sold the house. How she blamed him for losing out on what she called a golden opportunity. How she had told him he was weak for defending me. How that had been the final straw that made him realize he needed to leave. She never loved me, he said one afternoon over coffee. She loved what she thought I could give her. Status. Money, a nice house in a nice neighborhood. When that fell through, there was nothing left, no connection, no real relationship, just transactions. "I'm sorry you went through that. Don't be. It taught me something important. Love isn't about what you can get from someone, it's about what you want to give. And I'd spent so long taking from you that I'd forgotten how to give. I'm learning now, it's hard, but I'm learning." I was proud of him, cautiously proud, because I could see he was really trying. He was showing up to work at both his jobs. He was going to therapy, he was paying his bills, he was living within his means. He was becoming responsible. One day, about 6 months after he had shown up at my door, Michael came to visit with something in his hands. "A small wooden box. I made this," he said, handing it to me. "I took a woodworking class. Thought it might be something we could do together sometime. If you want." I opened the box. It was simple but well made, dovetail joints, smooth finish. He had carved my initials on top, RP. It's beautiful, Michael. I remembered how you used to build things, how you were always working with your hands, making things, fixing things. I wanted to try it, to understand what you loved about it, and I get it now. There's something peaceful about creating something with your own hands, something real, something that lasts. We started doing woodworking together on Sunday afternoons. He would come over to my condo and we'd work on small projects on my balcony. We didn't talk much while we worked. We didn't need to. The work itself was the connection, the quiet rhythm of sanding and measuring and cutting. It reminded me of when he was little and would help me work on the house, handing me tools, holding boards steady, just wanting to be near me. Somewhere along the way, I realized I had gotten my son back. Not the boy he had been. That boy was gone, and not the man he had become with Vanessa. That man was gone too. This was someone new, someone who had fallen and gotten back up, someone who had learned hard lessons and was trying to do better, and I realized something else too. I had gotten myself back, the real me. Not the martyr who sacrificed everything and called it love. Not the doormat who said yes to everything because he was afraid of being alone, but the real Robert Patterson, a man who knew his worth, who had boundaries, who could love without losing himself in the process. One Sunday afternoon, we were working on a bookshelf for Michael's apartment. He was measuring boards, and I was sanding. The sun was warm on my face. I felt content, truly content. For the first time since Catherine died, I felt at peace. "Dad?" Michael said quietly. "Yeah? Thank you. For what?" "For not giving up on me, even when you should have, even when I didn't deserve it. You could have cut me out of your life completely. You could have told me to never come back. But you didn't. You gave me a chance to be better, to do better. That's the greatest gift you could have given me." I set down my sandpaper and looked at him. "You're my son, Michael. I'll always give you a chance to be better. That's what love is. Not enabling, not sacrificing yourself into nothing, but believing in someone's ability to change, to grow, to become who they're meant to be." He smiled. "I'm going to keep trying every day to be someone you can be proud of. I already am, and I meant it. Looking back now, I can see how close I came to losing everything, not just my house or my money, but myself, my dignity, my self-respect, my sense of worth. I had spent so many years defining myself by what I could give to others that I had forgotten I was worth something just by existing. Just by being Robert Patterson, not Robert the provider, not Robert the father, not Robert the widow, just Robert. A person who deserved to be treated with respect, who deserved to have boundaries, who deserved to live a life that wasn't built entirely on sacrifice. Losing my house was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to start over, to rebuild. But this time I built something different, not a life dedicated to making everyone else happy while I suffered in silence, but a life that had balance where I could give but also receive, where I could love but also be loved, where I could help others but also help myself. I still miss Catherine. I think about her every day, but I don't feel guilty anymore for moving on, for being happy, for living in a way that doesn't revolve around her memory. I think she would be happy for me. I think she would want me to be at peace, and Michael and I are okay. We're not perfect. We probably never will be. There are still moments when I see flashes of the old him, the entitlement, the selfishness, but they're just flashes now, not his whole personality. And when I see them, I call him out, gently but firmly, and he listens. He really listens. Last week he brought me flowers just because, no special occasion, no reason, just flowers to say thank you for being his dad. I put them in a vase on my kitchen counter, and every time I look at them, I smile. I'm 73 years old now. I don't know how many more years I have, maybe 10, maybe 20 if I'm lucky. But however many I have, I'm going to live them on my own terms. I'm going to watch sunsets and make birdhouses and drink coffee, with friends and spend Sunday afternoons doing woodworking with my son, and I'm going to be happy, really truly happy. Not the fake happiness of pretending everything is okay when it's not, but the real happiness that comes from knowing who you are and standing firm in that knowledge, from having boundaries and keeping them, from loving people without losing yourself. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything, I would say this: your worth is not measured by how much you can give. It's not measured by how much you sacrifice. It's not measured by how much pain you can endure in silence. Your worth is inherent. You are valuable simply because you exist. And anyone who can't see that, anyone who takes and never gives back, doesn't deserve a place in your life. Even if they're family, especially if they're family. It took me 70 years to learn that lesson. I hope whoever hears this story learns it sooner, before they give away everything, before they lose themselves completely, before they wake up one day and realize they've spent their whole life living for everyone else and never for themselves. You deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve dignity. You deserve love that doesn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Remember that. Hold on to that, and never ever let anyone convince you otherwise, not even family, especially not family. Because real family, true family, doesn't ask you to sacrifice everything. Real family lifts you up. Real family respects you. Real family loves you not for what you can give them, but for who you are. And if the family you were born into doesn't understand that, then maybe it's time to build a new family. One that does. I did, and it saved my life.